views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
Good evening and welcome to BronxTalk. Through the fall, Community Board 4, then Community Board 5, then Community Board 7, and then the full Bronx Borough Board voted to approve the city's plan to rezone Jerome Avenue. Although in each case there was disagreement over the project, many concerns from the community, and in all cases approvals with conditions and recommendations. We here at BronxNet and BronxTalk have covered this issue extensively, and we plan to keep doing that, in particular tonight. Please join me in welcoming the Chair of Community Board 5. Welcome back, Dr. Bola Omotosho. Nice to have you with us.
Thank you for having me.
And also the board's first Vice Chair, Angel Caraballo. Nice to have you with us, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So this is ongoing. It probably has occupied your time and attention for a long time and probably will continue to do so. Ultimately, why did Board 5 vote to approve the Jerome Avenue rezoning plan? And I understand it was like 18 to 11, which was a little closer than the vote in Board 4. Why?
Good. Let me just put it in perspective. Initially, the initial Jerome rezoning did not include Board 5. We asked to be involved, to be part of this process, and we went through the process of talking to our elected official, which is Councilmember Cabrera, to talk to the DCP, City Planning, and we were included, and that's when the entire process was extended up to Board 4, Board 5, and eventually few blocks in Board 7. Having said that, prior to this process starting about 3 years ago, more than, we back in 2002, 2003, we had a 197A plan, which was something that we wanted to see, and we spent extensive time, resources on it, going through the same process of visioning session and on. So we already have a template of what we wanted to see on Jerome Avenue. So when
and this was before even the city came up with the zoning plan.
That's right.
Oh, I wasn't aware of that. That's fascinating.
Yeah, before the city
You
came
were
up.
basically ready to look at that area.
We actually looked at it.
Wow.
And we were already walking towards, seeing what can be done differently at that corridor, which eventually, when the city came up with this rezoning plan and we were not included, we asked that we want to join it.
So why is it that you wanted to be part of it? And then, of course, the next step is we'll talk about all the things that people are concerned about.
Yes.
But then why were you aggressive even prior to the zoning discussion?
Well, based on the report that we had back then, we found out that, well, there are a couple of things that needs to be changed in the community, especially in the district. If you look at the demographics of Board 5, we're sandwiched between Board 4 and Board 7. And those two boards actually, historically, have benefited from various other developments in the city. We have never, in the life of mine, in this district, had that kind of opportunity. I mean, you have the Yankee Stadium in Board 4, you have the filtration plant and the Kingsbridge,
the Armory
and Board 7.
So there was always the dialogue about those kinds of, that's fascinating.
Exactly.
Fascinating.
There is always a huge dialogue about it, and we're looking for an opportunity to get resources and bring resources to our district.
Mm-hmm. What were the issues that you wanted to address that made you say, you know what, maybe we should really try to do something different?
That's right. One of the major issues, we have limited open spaces. instead of being saturated with supportive houses and several other programs, we want to real development, real commitment. And of course, the main issue, we have quite a number of institutions in our district, like Bronx Community College, which we want to have them empowered because job is very critical. And if we do not have the foundation for some of these things coming into our district, it makes it very, very difficult for a district like ours, which is on the economic scale, is tagged as a poor district.
For people who don't know, Community Board 5 is Mount Hope, Mount Eden.
Yes.
Kind of that just central part of the Grand Concourse.
That's
let's say.
right. I mean,
and to the left, to the east and west.
from Fordham to Cross Bronx, that is the north and the south, and from Major Diggin to Webster, which is the east and west.
East and west. For you, sir, you're the chair of the Economic Development Committee for the board. Talk to me about economic development and why you think this rezoning plan could impact that in a positive way.
Absolutely, because of it, on Burnside Avenue, it's a very busy and vibrant community area. Businesses are there. There's some businesses there that have been there for over 65 years. And they've stayed there through the years of 1970s with all the burning homes and stuff like that.
So they've been real Bronxites, is what you're telling me.
They've really been Bronx people. And we have this opportunity, okay, to work with SBS in conjunction with the city planning issues with the Jerome study.
SBS is?
Department of Small Business Services.
Oh, okay.
And we're doing the 360, which is a contract to utilize, and we're going to help the local business owner, the president of the Merchant Association, and work with all the businesses under him so we can continue giving services to the Burnside Avenue area, which is a vibrant area.
Well, and how will this rezoning impact that? I mean, it sounds like you have a plan and a development plan outside of the rezoning, but now you're talking about something drastic that could affect that. How would this affect those businesses?
Well, just imagine that the rezoning is going to happen no matter what. We are going to get all kinds of population of people. With that, of course, we're going to need to have the economic development strip in a position that we can continue serving the public, but making sure that we do it right, because we've been 62 out of the 62 of the worst, most unhealthiest borough
counties in the state.
In the state,
Sure.
We are addressing those issues.
Do you have sympathy or understanding of why many people in your board and in all the boards and all the people affected who are very concerned? One thing Mr. Omotosho did not mention was housing. Very concerned about displacement. Certainly, we talked about it very briefly before the show, which we can and should talk about, is the businesses in the area. Some of them could be displaced, and using the word gentrification generally, that many Bronxites, especially on the lower end of the economic scale, are thinking, this comes in, I'm going to be the first one who can't afford to stay here. So do you have sympathy for that? I mean, I understand what both of you are saying about development, but that, I think, has to be looked at, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think that's going to be looked at once we see the things are happening. The move is here. The justification is here. Housing is a big issue in our area.
Okay.
Dr. Omotosho made some notes as soon as I asked that question.
That's right, I did.
He's ready.
Oh, you're looking at my notes
yeah,
already.
I've been doing this a long time. So what is your reaction to, I guess, the same
Okay,
question?
let me first of all react to the economic piece.
Okay.
Prior to the rezoning, we've been working on having a business improvement district on the Burnside. which is a passion that I have for, which of course you know the outcome of any business improvement district. And we've gone through several steps to get that in place.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but are business owners ready to do that, because it would mean a contribution from them in order to make that happen?
Absolutely.
They are ready to do it.
Right now we're working with them in order to get them to
that point.
That point.
Okay, go ahead.
So,
I didn't want to let you get past that till we acknowledge it.
I know. Thank you so much. Yes. Now, for the issue with housing, which for full disclosure, I'm also privileged to be the president of the board of directors of Mount Hope Housing. So I know firsthand. And also in addition, I'm also the committee chair for the housing in the district. Right. I know firsthand the experiences of our residents when it comes to housing. Everybody's worried about gentrification. But in these, there are two things. One is the vision about the rezoning, which on the other side, we have what I would call fear of the unknown.
Yeah, you could say fear, I would say concerns, okay.
Yeah. So, and when you have the fear, and that's why we have to put a lot of things in the mix, especially recommendation, and the implementation of the recommendation. The fear of gentrification is real, no doubt about it. A lot of our constituents have been very vocal about this gentrification, and they've been very vocal about how affordable is the affordable housing that will be provided.
You're repeating what, of course, everybody who's been involved in these things knows.
Exactly.
Is it possible to put anti-displacement, non-harassment language into the provisions to make sure that happens? Or, and we're going to talk about this more before the show is over, promises. They say, oh yeah, you'll have it, but then, of course, nobody ever holds to it.
Good. Actually, in our own recommendation, which we also have all these, we design a document which has all this language in it, but the key is the tracking of who is going to implement it and how are they going to follow through.
And enforce it.
Enforcement, thank you.
And so what is the answer to that question?
Well, the answer to that question from city planning, which we were told, and well, they have something in place where they'll be reportable. We'll be able to track the project, the progress online, and periodically it will be updated.
Yeah, and then I guess, I don't know if this is an answerable question. The question would be, if you find actually that something is amiss,
yes,
how and who gets that?
We can't answer that question yet.
Yeah,
we just couldn't answer that.
What I do want to do that the Bronx Borough Board approved it. I mentioned that at the top of the show. And then the borough president, after that approval, came out with a statement. We have that statement. I'd like to just run that. And it reflects some of the things that you say. And then I'm going to also repeat what Councilmember Gibson said on this program. So let's show that quote from the borough president. So the borough president said, "The plan for the future of Jerome Avenue represents tremendous transformative potential for the entire Bronx," which you both have acknowledged.
That's correct.
"Whatever we do, we must ensure that this rezoning works for everyone, especially the tenants who currently call the affected neighborhoods home." And this reflects, certainly what your intention is. When we had Councilmember Gibson on this program to talk about this, boy, we've covered this topic and we're going to continue to cover it. She said she would like to see the kinds of funding for infrastructure. You work at the Davidson Community Center. You are the chair of the Parks Committee. She wanted to see funding for those kinds of things.
Correct.
For housing before, and she underscored the word before, the plan is enacted. Is that reality? Can we make it? Is that going to actually happen, or is it really going to be one of these things that develops over time?
Well, I think it can happen if we hold them accountable to it. Okay, and by doing that is like Dr. Bola said, we gave them pointers, and we gave them our points
recommendations
on what we wanted, and I think that should be added. And Councilwoman Gibson is absolutely right.
Yeah.
Well,
my fear, and we talked about it before the show, having sat in this seat for all these years, whether it be the filtration plant or Yankee Stadium or the Kingsbridge Armory, is that a lot of talk is done beforehand. And you talked about fear. People are worried that it just doesn't happen.
Yes. Actually, prior to our vote on the board, there were some initial commitments which were brought to the table, which emphasized 800 million on housing and preservation, which had already covered over 4,500, about 4,500 units in both District 4 and 5, and also commitment to parks, Martin Playground and another park to up to about $8 million. But that is not enough. We got this commitment prior even to our vote because we did request, we want to see something. And as it is as of today, the way it works, it's, well, we voted, the boards, committee boards had voted in favor. You have the borough president who had also, the borough board had voted in favor. But of course, you notice that it's striking that you have the council members abstaining at the borough board.
Both
Yes.
Council Member Gibson and Cabrera did that.
Yeah, they did that at the borough board. And that's strategic because
They didn't want to commit to it until
when they get to city council.
That makes sense.
Which we understand, and that's why some of the requests that we still have, of course, they will be held accountable for some of this, and they will still be strong advocates.
So they didn't want to say that they supported it just yet. Let me ask you something about some of the things that have come up in both community boards, in Board 4 and 5, in their dialogues. They asked for LGBTQ center. They asked for programs that promote financial literacy, schools and subway infrastructures and bus improvement, cultural programs. I know for the Davidson Community Center, you'd be interested in that. Some of these things are not, I guess, directly related to the rezoning. In other words, you're going to build housing, you're going to change some of the storefronts and things like that.
But those
is that a fair request or a reasonable thing to expect the city to do when you have these kinds
absolutely.
of you do things?
Look at the amount of people that are coming into our district. We need to serve everyone. We cannot just stop just to give them. Our schools are overcrowded as is.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So what you're saying is either more seats or build a school.
Either build, exactly.
We actually identify
Or
specific.
fund the schools that are now, more so they can do more.
So let's let you respond to that, and then I'm going to put you on the your feet
spot.
to the fire about the auto body shops, which is another major aspect of this. Go ahead. So let's talk about schools.
There is the neighborhood development funds, which of course the city is earmarked for this rezoning citywide. It's just logical that some of the things that we've been denied of, or some of the things that are not up to par, like the unfunded school seats, before you can go ahead with it, let's have these unfunded school seats taken care of, along with security, cameras along Jerome Avenue Strip for safety.
And I have to tell you, isn't it a little crazy that we have these shopping districts and we have some areas, and I don't know the crime numbers off the top of my head, but some areas that do have crime, and to this day we don't have cameras in those districts. That doesn't, I mean, that's not how we need to run our city, and if we're going to spend, we may as well do it right.
That's right. I mean, what is good for Times Square is also good for
the Bronx.
And you
for
know,
Jerome Avenue.
I can only tell you, and I know what people who are watching the show are thinking. We agree. Prove it. Are we going to get it? And you, I think you both mentioned holding feet to the fire is an important aspect. So let's talk about the auto body shops. I read a quote on, I think it was on Facebook from a Bronxite, I'm not going to identify who it was, who said, "All I want is the auto shops gone and more housing for middle income earners. The neighborhood can't stay as it is." In other words, and that reflects what you said at the outset, that you want the neighborhood to do better. It can't be as it is. We've got to do little things like security cameras and all that. But he says he wants the auto body shops gone to create a different sort of community. But we have auto body shop owners who have been dedicated, who deserve who maybe immigrant families who deserve the opportunity to raise money and build their businesses like everybody else. What happens to them? What do we do?
we help them. Okay, we don't just take them out. Okay, we have Bronx Community College right there that we can give them a trade, make them legal. Okay,
Teach them how to do better.
teach them how it's done. I mean, you have mechanics that are working on the strip there, that are changing car oil, the oils on the car, and what do they do with the oil? They dump them into the sewer.
They probably have no idea.
Okay, they
about
have
what's-
no idea because they've been doing that for so many years. And this is what's happening in our area there for many, many years.
So now, well, then let's go the next step. So you say we're going to take them, we're going to get them, presumably, and this came up in the Community Board 4 thing, financial literacy, financial support, and then, listen, Bronx Community College has an auto mechanics school.
Right
why
there.
not put them right in school? Can that connection be made?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And then but what about the potential physical displacement of those shops? Now, when some of those store owners at the Bronx Terminal Market, some did well and some disappeared. Can we create a system where they're taken care of? Or are we going to lose somebody?
No, we don't want to lose anybody.
I don't know. Good luck.
I
with
want to
that.
try to see if we can give services to everyone that's there and make sure that they go to wherever their trade is called for.
What's your thought about that?
Well, my thought about it, let me take you back to memory lane.
Bronx memory lane.
I refer to what the community did in terms of the 197A plan back in 2003, the report that came out then, before the rezoning. I guess the unidentified anonymous person must have read that report, because the report in Board 5 clearly states that, yes, we want the auto industry out of that strip.
Oh, you're talking about that quote that I just read.
That quote you just read. Now,
That conflicts with what we just heard here, but okay, go ahead.
yeah, I mean, in the report that that the committee had in 197A plan was to have the auto industry
at that time.
at that time out of the strip,
Okay.
right? To have better use for that strip. Now, what we've done now is we've engaged the auto owners. I mean, the current operators, who most
They
of
have
them.
an association and they're very outspoken.
They're very outspoken, they are very engaging, and they are very much interested in what's going to happen down the road. That's why we've been working in collaboration with Bronx Community College, which currently, they have a model, which the president of Bronx Community College did share with us, that prior to coming to BCC, they had a model in Orange County, which works very well for the auto industry. And even now, they're still designing more for the building on it, having a collaboration with specific auto industries, the under and one other one other auto industry here in the Bronx, so that specifically they will be able to train this group, and they will be more effective, and they will, at the end of it, also have a job readiness program for them.
So, but again, looking physically at the plan, I mean, that whole strip of auto body shops, it runs for a number of blocks. You drive down there and you have many options of where to fix your car. They're not all going to stay. I mean, let's be real about that. Even if you train them physically, they're not going to stay.
No, that we know.
The way the rezoning plan works, they identify some islands. The current draft, which we all voted on,
Where they can put them together.
where they put them together. And 2 of those islands are in Board 4, and 1 island is in Board 5. Even though we requested that it should be a level playing ground, so that whoever owns those properties, they will be part of the rezoning. They have equal opportunities. They don't have to go through this process all over again if down the road. But
right. I don't want to listen. I'm hoping for the best. The experience now at Willett's Point, and they were promised an area in Hunts Point that many of those businesses were going to move to, and then all of a sudden the landlord of that area said you're not going to be, and so now they move them out of Willett's Point, and they don't have a place to go.
That's right.
But you're saying that potentially there will be places within the zoning area which will be more hopeful.
That is what is in the draft EIS.
You know, just trying to, in a way, represent so many of the people that I know who are going to watch the show, they'll watch it online and everything else, and they're going to look and they're going to say, you know what, all that is well and good. I just hope it really happens because it sounds good. I know the community, we all want economic development, but we want also affordability and with realistic affordability for people in the community. I don't know how we balance the fears.
How can you balance it?
Or it may be fear. I mean, you know, I don't know, and I think it's a realistic fear. We've seen it all over the borough. So, go ahead. You want?
But it's going to happen no matter what.
So we better having, frankly, programs like this and on BronxNet, things like this where we can keep talking about it certainly has to help the atmosphere for it. What's next step? Let's say for you, and then we'll go to you with the same question. What is the next step to keep this moving forward in a way that is community friendly? Like, what are you doing next?
Well, since I work at the Davidson Center, I'm working directly with the public and directly in the community in Board 5. So there are services there that are desperately needed. Housing is one of them. Fill out the applications, make sure that we find out when these buildings...
So for you, it's just a day-to-day process.
It's a day-to-day process, but not only that, I'm also working with the economic development there as well.
Dr. Omotosho, real quick, do you believe that there was sufficient community input into this, that the plans, I mean, they came in with one plan and now it's being transformed into something community friendly?
Well, I believe it's a work in progress.
I knew you were going to say that.
Because that brings the thought factor. And what is it? We talked about the vision, we talked about the fear, but what you're asking me now is about the trust factor.
Yeah, well, and we have enough history on that. What's your next step? Another hearing or anything, or are you just going to keep talking to the city? Is that what you're
well, we keep...
they yell at me, we got to wrap up.
Yeah, we keep talking to the city, and we keep them engaged.
And we hope you'll keep coming on Bronx.
And our elected officials.
We
need to make sure we keep up with our elected officials.
Well, that's what we do here.
Thank
you, gentlemen.
It's
such a vital dialogue, and we all hope it turns out well and people of the Bronx benefit. That's the bottom line. If you have further questions or comments on anything you heard on tonight's show or anything going on in the Bronx, then email them to us at BronxTalk@BronxNet.org. You send us a tweet at BronxTalk or post them on our Facebook page and we'll read them on the air during a future edition of the program. You can check out the archives at BronxNet.org. You find Bronx Talk by following the Watch menu on the new BronxNet website. Thanks our producer, Lindsay Violet, our director, William Guzman. We're in a different studio today. No matter, the talk is good. We'll see you next week. Good night.
They call me Maxie, but I prefer tripod. I was your above-average four-legged homie, and then wham, bam, minivan. Some people pity me. Now that's lame. I still run, fetch, and swim. And the ladies love me. I'm the ultimate wingman. Just don't ask me to high five.
Why don't you ever see elephants hiding in trees? Because they're really good at it. Yeah, I get it.